Welcome, parents, and thank you for joining this conversation about vaping. You've probably seen the headlines or maybe even found a vape in your teen's backpack and thought, what's really going on here? Today, we're breaking down what parents need to know, the facts, the signs, and the steps you can take to protect your teen's health. Today, we have Teresa with us from Prevention Services at Coastal Horizons.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm really excited we're talking about this. It's a really important issue for parents to be aware of and understand.
Let's start simple. What exactly is vaping, and how is it different from smoking cigarettes?
So, vaping means inhaling aerosolized liquid from an e cigarette, often containing nicotine, flavoring, and harmful chemicals. Teens think it's safer because it doesn't produce smoke, but that vapor actually contains nicotine and toxins that can harm the lungs and brain. Unlike cigarettes, there's no burning of tobacco, but that doesn't make it harmless. Like I talked about before, the aerosol can still contain nicotine and harmful chemicals. Another important point for parents to know is that vaping is really just a drug delivery device. It's not limited to nicotine. Vape pens can also be used to inhale substances like THC and, in some cases, even more dangerous drugs such as fentanyl. That's why it's so important to know what your teen is vaping and where it's coming from.
What kinds of vaping products are kids actually using? And why are they drawn to them?
So, kids are using brands that look like USB drives, highlighters, and colorful gadgets, which make them easier to hide, highly appealing, and very popular. There's also what's being called smart vapes, which are devices that connect to apps or include built in games and technology designed to keep users engaged and even reward them for taking more puffs. These features can make vaping feel more like a game, which can encourage more frequent use, which leads to a higher nicotine intake and thus increases the risk of forming an addiction. Some of the things that draw youth towards vaping includes things like candy or fruit flavoring, which are super appealing and widely marketed towards youth. Another draw is social pressure and the perception that vaping is safer than smoking a traditional cigarette. And last, and possibly the biggest draw for youth towards vaping, is due to one of the ingredients in many vape liquids called nicotine salts. The form of nicotine is mixed with an acid that makes the vapor feel smoother and less harsher on the throat than traditional nicotine found in cigarettes. Because it goes down so easily, teens can take in much larger amounts of nicotine without realizing it, increasing their risk for addiction and making it even harder to quit later on.
Some parents wonder, is vaping actually dangerous or just overhyped?
So, vaping poses serious risk for teens because most vape products contain nicotine, which, as we know, is extremely addictive. The developing teen brain absorbs nicotine faster, making addiction more likely and more intense. Nicotine can disrupt brain development up to around age 25, affecting memory, learning, focus, and emotional regulation. It can also increase the risk of anxiety, mood swings, and substance misuse. Another point I want to bring up is that the contents in vapes are not always what's marketed or what's on the label. Vape liquid or substances that people use in vapes can be contaminated with anything from fentanyl to pesticides to household cleaners, xylazine, THC, and literally any other deadly substance you can think of. Lastly, vaping is extremely dangerous because it changes how the teen brain experiences rewards and stress, and also trains the brain to crave that same kind of high. And these things can make teens more likely to experiment with other substances over time.
What about long term risks? What should parents be concerned about for the future?
So, as we already talked about, nicotine affects brain development up to age 25, and it can impact functions like memory and learning. And even though it's still a relatively new trend, early evidence is showing people who vape are at an increased risk for chronic lung disease, heart problems, and lifelong nicotine addiction. It's also important for parents to know that vaping doesn't produce harmless water vapor. What's released is actually an aerosol made up of fine particles, including heavy metals and other toxic substances that can be inhaled deep into the lungs, where they can cause issues such as lung irritation, coughing, and chest pain. And in more serious cases, lung injuries, particularly when THC or counterfeit products are involved.
Some parents think vaping is safer than smoking. Is that true?
So, first and foremost, safer does not mean safe. Vaping still exposes kids to nicotine and other toxins. And one of the big concerns is that many kids who vape are more likely to transition to cigarettes or other substances later on. Another thing parents should know is that vape liquid, or e juice, can actually contain a surprising amount of nicotine. In fact, one small bottle often has as much nicotine as anywhere from 2 to 5 packs of cigarettes. So even though vaping might seem like a safer option than smoking, it can actually mean your teen is taking in much more nicotine, sometimes even more than someone who smokes 1 to 3 packs a day. That's a big reason why vaping can be so addictive, especially for young people whose brains are still developing.
How common is vaping among youth right now?
So, data is showing that roughly 1 in 5 middle and high school students reported vaping in the past year. And while these numbers fluctuate, it remains one of the most common forms of substance use among youth.
And if a parent is worried, what signs might suggest their child is vaping?
So, things like sweet or fruity smells when there's no food around, unexplained USB like devices, cartridges, or packaging, and sudden changes in mood, irritability, or coughing.
Are there certain products or flavors that tend to attract kids the most?
Yes, that is a great question. So there are flavors like fruit, candy, mint, and dessert, which are some of the biggest draws, and bright packaging and social media ads also play a role.
This is a big question. How do parents actually talk to their kids about vaping without it becoming a battle?
So staying calm and open is the most important. Parents are going to want to listen first, ask what their kid knows, and avoid judgment. Share facts in age appropriate ways. Don't use scare tactics. Position it as concern for their health and future, not punishment. Another strategy is to start with curiosity. Ask what they've seen or heard about vaping. Keep it calm, not confrontational. Your goal is to open a door, not close one.
What are some strategies parents can use to help prevent their child from vaping?
Build trust by having ongoing conversations, not just one big talk. Encourage healthy coping skills for stress, and set clear family rules and model healthy behaviors.
And if a parent finds out their child is vaping, what should they do?
I know this is really hard, but try not to panic. Keep the conversation open and supportive. Ask questions like, "Help me understand what this does for you," and or ask why. Stress, curiosity, or peer pressure can often play a role. Focus on helping them quit with support, not shame. Pediatricians and quitline programs can help, and they're going to want to work together with their youth to set goals for quitting and get professional help if needed.
How can schools and communities help parents in this fight against vaping?
Education programs that include parents, not just students, consistent school policies on vaping with supportive, not just punitive responses, and community partnerships that raise awareness and provide resources.
If parents want to learn more or get support, where should they turn?
So, resources like Smoke Free Teen offer services like text based quit programs. The Truth Initiative and CDC have parent friendly fact sheets. Local health departments often run prevention programs and support groups. And two other resources that I really love include parentsagainst.vaping.org and operationparent.org.
This has been such an eye opening conversation. Do you have one piece of advice for encouragement you'd like to leave with parents today?
Absolutely. So, as parents, we can't control every choice our teens make, but we can shape the conversations that guide them. Vaping can feel overwhelming, but parents have more influence than they realize. You don't need to know everything, you just need to stay connected. Keep the conversation open, listen without judgment, and let your kids know you care. When we listen without judgment and share real facts about vaping, we give our kids the power to think critically and make healthy choices. Even when it feels like they aren't listening, your voice matters. Your calm presence and consistency matter. Keep showing up, keep asking, and keep the dialogue open. And remember, you're not alone in this. There are resources and communities ready to support you and your family. Together, we can give our kids the chance to grow up strong and healthy.
Thank you so much, Teresa, for taking the time out of your day to answer some really important questions about vaping, as the information you have given is super supportive and helpful.
Thank you so much for having me today.